Okay, hey, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a really cool review for you from the band Gruppo Gamma. They were established back in 2013, and their name was, of course, inspired by the elite Italian frogman unit of the same title. Now, they are an independent micro brand known for designing and building vintage-inspired tool watches that are easy to read, fuss-free to operate, and good enough for daily adventures. In terms of the type of watch, I could consider this a traveler's watch. Some key common characteristics and language you're looking for a watch within this space. Of course, you're going to want some type of GMT or world timer functionality, so you're able to track multiple time zones with relative ease. This is the Venturo Field 3 GMT no date variation, and it's the third iteration of Venturo's signature field watch line. So the Field 3 is also their smallest watch to date with a 40mm case, but combined with a super legible dial layout and 200 meters of water resistance, it still packs a ton of capability into a nice svelte package. It also adds a GMT variation to, give you an extra layer of usefulness while tracking 2 time zones. This goes for $430 direct, and that's as seen with the steel bracelet and canvas strap combo, but you can get it cheaper if you want it just on bracelet for $410, or you can get it just on the strap for $380. So pretty great deal there. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay guys, as you can see, a real looker here, very, very legible. So in terms of it being that, from a field watch or even a flight watch, a traveler's watch perspective, that is one of the things that it really has working for it. Some of you are looking at this thinking, all right, well, it definitely has some Panerai vibes. And they do. Their whole Gruppo Gamma and kind of everything that they do have general Panerai vibes. But the nice thing is this particular model doesn't really, pay homage to anything directly. It just takes certain design cues. And of course, in this case, with the fixed bezel, some of you are also probably thinking Explorer 2, although this looks nothing like an Explorer 2. So kudos to the team for being able to kind of meld together some really, really cool and desirable aesthetics to where it creates something that I think looks quite fresh and attractive. This is really cool. If Bell and Ross put this piece out, it would cost a lot more, but they didn't. So good on Gruppo Gamma for having a real eye for design, especially kind of within this space of, hey, they made a 3-hand field watch and they said, let's add a 4th hand, let's do an engraved bezel. And oh man, it really just livens this watch up. But one thing I did want to quickly touch on as well is the packaging, which I thought was really nice. A little zip action here. I'll show you the extra strap that it comes with if you choose to get the strap. Of course, it's here, which was under this. So really nice canvas, non-tapering. It does have quick release spring bars. And yeah, if you want to save some money, this is a real nice one for you. But this does have 22mm lugs, so it's going to still be relatively a strap monster. Some of you are thinking 22, shouldn't it have 20mm lugs? Sure, 20mm lugs are known on 40mm watches, but I will say the fact that they use 22mm lugs actually helps shrink this watch down even more, and you guys will see it when I get it on wrist. This actually wears closer to like a 38, I would say, because of the wider lugs. Visually shrinks everything down in terms of the case, and then of course it's still substantial enough to where it's not a small watch. For those of you that do like larger watches, this is a 40 that is got some heft to it. This is a solid chunks of metal here, but you can see fully articulated bracelet. It's just, it has nice details. Look at the curvature. That's nice. It's just handsome to look at. But into the details: 40mm diameter, 14.2mm thick, 48.5mm lug to lug, 316L stainless steel, all brushed. You do have this box dome sapphire that does have some inner air coating, and that is a nice sapphire. Look at that. You can tell that it's domed on the underside too, because there is really no distortion even at super harsh angles. Wow. So again, ultimate legibility, which is a huge function of a tool watch. So getting into some of these other details, of course, the crown and bezel. The crown is screw down, which is why this has 200 meters of water resistance, and you can trust it. And then the bezel is fixed, so you can't rotate the bezel, which I love. I honestly think 24-hour rotating bezels can be, honestly, like, they look cool. I like the two-tone patterns that happen a lot of times, but people don't really use them because it's for tracking a third time zone. Tracking 2 time zones is enough, right? And if you're traveling, just skipping to the next time zone with whatever hand you're going to hop with, then hey, then that works. So something like this with the fixed bezel, I really dig that. I have a similarly themed Grand Seiko watch. So yeah, I obviously like this look a lot. So getting into the movement, which you cannot see, the movement is actually a Seiko Instruments automatic NH34A GMT movement, which you probably would have guessed because that's what keeps it so affordable. It has a 41-hour power reserve and beats at 3 hertz or 21,600 vibrations per hour in terms of its beat rate. I will say the back of this case back, it has this milling pattern here, but I'll say it's super grippy. Like on your skin, it almost feels like a file. I don't know if they did it on purpose. Like that's a tool. Like if you need to grind something down, you could pop off your watch and use that. But I will say that to the touch, anyway, to your fingers, until maybe you sweat in this a little bit and kind of build up a little bit of a layer of patina there between your flesh and this, it might feel just a touch sharp. I mean, it's not quite sandpaper, but I will say that, you know, it sticks to your hand and not the most sensational way in terms of the tactile engagement of the touch on there. But I will say you don't really feel it when it's on your wrist. It's just if you touch it with your finger, and obviously your finger has way more, you know, receptors than the back of your wrist does. So take that with a grain of salt. Now getting into, so the movement, some of you know, many of you may not know. So this has a collar or an office style GMT, which means that the hour hand, the GMT hour hand is going to be independently adjustable, while the hour and minute hand are all going to go when you pull out the ultimate hack. So when you hack the seconds and hack everything, you can set and everything will follow, including that 24-hour hand. But on the first position, you're essentially going to be able to set that GMT, but it's only going to go one direction because this is a collar, and you normally will use the other direction to do the quick set date. But there is no date here, but there is an option for one. If you did have one, it would be at 6 o'clock. Definitely check the links in the description if you are interested in one with a date. I think this no date variation is very unique and very cool. So, hey, that's why that's the one that I got. So again, big shout out to Gruppo Gamma for choosing to collaborate with the channel and send this piece in. Now, getting into the dial, great matte black. You get, it's all printed. Again, very solid, very symmetrical with no date. You're getting Swiss Looper Luminova BGW9, so it's going to have that nice blue glow to it. And then it has 200 meters of water resistance, which is great. The 22 millimeter lug width might throw some people off. And honestly, as you look at it, it does give it a nice feeling of, I guess, like visual heft. But the proportions, right, not just the scale of it, but the proportions actually do help shrink down the watch case, which you guys will notice when I get it on my wrist. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, guys, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, this wears really beautifully. And that bracelet being a bit thicker at 22 millimeters at the lug, I tell you what, it plays a visual trick on me, and it makes me feel like this watch is a little bit smaller just because those proportions. It's kind of like when you see a 20 millimeter lug on a 36 millimeter watch. Something about it it makes it small but large, and it's tricky. But of course, if I get my wrist too close to the camera there, you're gonna get a lot of lens distortion. It's gonna feel quite large. But if I keep my hand nice and low and just tighten up the frame here, you guys are going to be able to take a look at the details, but also get a little bit of a truer aspect ratio. You can see this thing is really nicely centered on the wrist. Nice flowing lugs. Super articulated, fully articulated 3-link bracelet that also has screw links, which is great. Milled clasp, flip lock style. And yeah, it does kind of what you need there. And I can appreciate that. It does have a slight taper down to 22 millimeters, but you can see that the kind of the vibe they're going for is definitely just a little bit more classic and you know, within this kind of very tooly style. I think the mild taper they have is actually quite fitting. And if they would have went too much of a taper, because of just the way that the case itself tapers, it might look a little bit odd. So I actually dig this. And you know, it's nice to have 20 millimeter lugs, especially when you have a bunch of 20 millimeter straps. But hey, 22 is also a very common size, especially if you have, like, let's say a bunch of Seiko divers. So something like this could easily be remounted. And then there, of course, are all of the factory options, because you get this on this steel bracelet you can choose, or that canvas strap, both of which that have quick release spring bars. So with that said, let's actually set this up for some Lume shots, the light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. As you can see, really nice Lume, and with 200 meters of water resistance, if you want to take this into some deep dark water, you absolutely could, and you still have nice visibility. But one thing I always like to work in, of course, is a bit of low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself, you know, walking in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, maybe just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree, or spending some time in your favorite automobile. So it's nice to see what these colors, finishes, and textures render like in less than optimal lighting. So you even include some harsh lighting that could typically expose any type of production defects. But you're going to see here that the light glides nice and uniformly over that very tool brush there. It's not a super fancy hairline brushing, but it is very utilitarian and does the job. And you can see that if you wore this and it picked up some scratches, some nicks, it's just all going to kind of flow with this beautiful satin tone. And I could see this one picking up some nice wabi-sabi as you take it on your multiple adventures, especially considering how capable it is. You get the screw down crown, 200 meters of water resistance. You also get to track a separate time zone. I mean, this is very cool. Also very versatile in terms of its look. Its aesthetic is very strong. So closing thoughts, guys. On the wrist, there are definitely very clear Panerai inspirations without it being a direct homage to any specific models, as well as it's smartly integrating those kind of Explorer 2 vibes without actually looking like one. The wider lug width and bracelet visually shrink the watch case down, and it does appear more like a 38 at times. It's not going to feel like a 38, but I will say it's going to give you a lot of those similar vibes. Visually. So I think that's a nice sweet spot, because if you like bigger watches, it'll still work for you. If you like smaller watches, it could still work for you. In terms of model variants, it's also available with a date. So this same configuration, but you can add a date at 6 o'clock, as well as non-GMT, no date, 3-hand options. So you can get something that's going to be a little bit different with a smooth bezel, and then of course minus the GMT hand there. So those ones actually look really cool too. They kind of have this borderline field pilot adventure thing. So I definitely dig those. But in terms of comparable models, this honestly reminds me a lot of my Grand Seiko SBGM 245 with its great curves and fixed bezel GMT layout. But this is on a Seiko 5 budget, so this is a really cool niche within the whole new affordable GMT boom. So I think it's in a good place, and I'm glad to share it with you guys, because I think a few of you will probably think this thing's pretty awesome. Bottom line, guys, this is you know, affordable GMTs are all the rage right now, and for good reason. It's a complication that is perfectly timed for the rush to get back to traveling and exploring again. And this Venturo field is a really great option, combining affordability and capability. So, you know, it's fine that it's not a flyer or a you know, traveler's style GMT. It's still going to be able to do the job ultimately. And if you wanted to, you could just adjust your local time manually and rehack. It's not a big deal. It's you know, it's a manual. I mean, it's an automatic movement anyway. It's mechanical, right? So it's not like you're going to be keeping a COSC chronometer standard with it. So not a bad deal if you did want to travel with it. And if you did, another nice thing is, hey, it's waterproof. You could take it with you on a beach vacation or out, you know, to go hit the Alps and or a ski vacation. This thing would be equally capable and at a home there. So yeah, I think this is a cool one, guys, and I'm really, again, appreciative of the brand for sending this piece in. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do it like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.